here today, but she wanted to welcome you all to Chapel University and to this great new facility. If you don't recognize it, that's because it's brand spanking new. We just finished a major renovation of the student union, and we're just really excited to be able to host these types of events in a lot more comfortable setting. And I want to let you know how much we value our partnership and our relationship with the county, with County Executive Olszewski, Secretary Ports. We work as an anchor institution in the Baltimore region. We value our relationship with the county executive and with all of his leadership team. We are currently, as luck would have it, in discussions with the planning department and other county officials on a transportation study that we're undertaking for the Towson area. As we grow, our needs, of course, change, and we're looking at multimodal transportation opportunities throughout the region. So again, we thank you for being here today. If there's anything you need, certainly let me know. Elizabeth knows how to get in touch with me, or any of our facility staff will be happy to help you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Katie. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce County Executive Johnny Olszewski.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. I want to first thank you, Katie Maloney, for your partnership. Thanks to you and President Schatzel for your generosity hosting us, not just today, but the many ways in which we partner. We've had our senior leadership team meetings here. We've welcomed leaders from the National Association of Counties here. And we're grateful for all things we partner in great and small. So thank you for your greetings and your presence and for your partnership. I want to thank, in particular, Secretary Jim Ports and the MDOT team. Mr. Secretary, it has been an honor and a pleasure to work with and partner with you as we improve transportation across Baltimore County and our entire region. And I want to say I appreciate and am grateful for your genuine willingness to listen every time we felt like we haven't gotten the attention or the investments we wanted. So I truly appreciate your leadership and your partnership on issues important to Baltimore County. I want to thank and acknowledge the elected officials I do see here. And if I miss anyone or any representatives, feel free to just wave your hand. But I do see we have Senator Shelley Heddleman here. We have Delegate Sheila Ruth. We have Delegate Kathy Forbes. We have Councilman Izzy Patoka, Senator Johnny Ray Salling, Delegate John Cardin. We have Margie Brazel representing Delegate Dana Stein today. Renee Smith is here representing Senator Kathy Klausmeyer. And I think, thanks, Kim. Appreciate the reminder there. Did I miss anybody else? Almost perfect. Thanks. On my team, I want to thank for their presence and their leadership. We have the County Administrative Officer Stacy Rogers, DeAndrea Walker, our Acting Director of Public Works and Transportation, our Planning Director Steve Lafferty, Leonard Howey, our Director of Economic and Workforce Development, Laura Riley from our Department of Aging, Elizabeth Sachs, who introduced everyone, who's our Director of Government Reform and Strategic Initiatives, and I see Director Pete Gutwald from our Planning and Inspections Department. If I miss any directors, I apologize. Feel free to introduce yourselves. So we've got great partners at the state and federal level, elected, appointed, our local folks, and from day one, we have been committed to improving transit opportunities across Baltimore County so that our residents construct communities. Region, and we believe in the need east-west county connectivity because residents should have regional solutions rather than being confined to jurisdictional lines or even a single part of our county. We also believe in filling first and last mile gaps, better helping people to get to jobs and improving their overall quality of life. And we believe in more walkable, bikeable communities, so it's easy to choose sustainable, healthy options. Delivering on that vision has required that we fundamentally change and transform how we operate in Baltimore County these past 4 years. We've reimagined Baltimore County's approach to transportation, including a greater emphasis on transit and multimodal transportation options. That shift is now formally acknowledged in the name of our department, the Department of Public Works and Transportation, and the structure of this agency. As you know, in our first year, we created the county's first transportation bureau, along with positions dedicated to that renewed focus, including a deputy director for transportation and a lead transportation planner, not to mention a bike and pled planner. I want to recognize again Director D'Andrea Walker for her leadership in transforming not just the transportation functions of this agency, but all of our work. I also want to thank and acknowledge Deputy Director Tony Russell, who now serves as our Deputy for Transportation, who has helped build out this robust and incredible team. We've also made significant new investments to carry out this vision on transportation, because we know that you have to invest in the things that we believe in. We put forward a record $8 million in road resurfacing and traffic calming, while also making a real commitment to bike lanes and improved pedestrian access. More globally, we've continued to shift some of our focus to transit, investing in the Towson Circulator, now known as the Towson Loop, and expanding the service of county ride service to Saturday. I am proud of the progress we have made together. And again, we are thankful for all the ways in which we've been able to deliver, thanks to a productive partnership with all of you to deliver real results for our residents. There is perhaps no greater example of that partnership than the long-term solution that has now been identified in Owings Mills. Year after year, we've made the Dolefield interchange one of our top, made it our top transportation priority. And we are thankful that after those years of advocacy and conversation, this long overdue project is finally moving forward. Design began this past May, and once completed, the project will save drivers 5 minutes plus going southbound and more than 12 minutes going northbound. All told, that's over 2,100 hours expected to be saved each and every day, thanks to the work of this project. Those are major time savings for our residents and our visitors and will make a big difference. So I again want to thank you, Mr. Secretary, and MDOT for listening to us, working in partnership to identify a real solution to this pressing and urgent need. We look forward to continuing on this project, and thank you in advance for your support on this and other initiatives. While we are continuing to work with our congressional delegation, we hope to receive federal dollars to continue support of this project. We also know that continued state investment will be critical to ensuring it comes to fruition. Ensuring we see similar kinds of success throughout Baltimore County will require a similar level of commitment from the state to support our county's ongoing transportation needs. As we pointed out in years past, Baltimore County continues to be significantly and disproportionately underfunded compared to our peer jurisdictions. For years, we have received historically less than other large jurisdictions, and for 4 years, we have asked for increased state investment in our LOTS funding. And 4 years later, compared to Montgomery and Prince George's in particular, but also Anne Arundel County, it's clear that locally operated transit in Baltimore County has been and remains significantly underfunded. Again, we are grateful for the grants we've received as a result of the federal stimulus dollars that have come to Maryland. And I want to thank you again for those. But we were hoping to see additional operating revenue this year, and it's unfortunate that is not yet the case. We understand that the underlying formula is being evaluated, and we are hopeful. First of all, we're grateful for your look into that. And we are hopeful that any potential adjustments will address this historical disparity between investments in Baltimore County and other jurisdictions of similar size and scope. Because Baltimore County is the third largest jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. We have a Baltimore metropolitan area that is among the most congested in the country. And our county remains the top job center in the region and the second largest job center in the state, with more than 21,000 businesses employing nearly 380,000 workers. Baltimore County residents are just as deserving of these important state resources, and we believe that 500,000 is simply insufficient to meet those needs. We are committed to further expanding our work with additional support but we can only do that with the state as a partner. Because we are putting the resources we are given to good use. Today, for example, marks the 1-year anniversary of the Towson Loop service I mentioned earlier, which provides free, localized public transportation to core destinations in Towson, our county seat. I want to take a moment and call out, even though he's not here, Councilman David Marks, who has been a longtime advocate and champion for the circulator model and his longtime commitment to bringing the service to the Towson area. Even though this service was launched during the pandemic, we've seen incredible early successes with nearly 45,000 riders to date. We remain firmly committed to the long-term success of this model, and we continue our outreach in partnership with local hospitals and academic institutions alike to drive up ridership. For example, to help remind students, including new students and those returning employees, we've expanded outreach and advertising. We are optimistic about our potential to sustain and grow the Loop program. However, again, just want to reinforce the importance of our need to have additional support to do so. Before the development of the Towson Loop, our only locally operated transit service was County Ride. This was previously housed in the Department of Aging, and that was a service for seniors and people with disabilities that has now moved over to our Department of Public Works and Transportation to be more consolidated with transportation functions. As we have done that, we've also continued to expand and improve that County Ride service. For example, we've upgraded our technology in order to improve our dispatching capabilities, and we continue to integrate with Uber's shared ride services to supplement our existing capabilities during times of high demand. Our drivers now have tablets with GPS and routing service, which help residents get advanced notification of arrivals to create a more responsive and user-friendly experience. And in response to community feedback, we are making critical adjustments, and we're excited to be launching expanded Saturday service, something residents have long called for. We remain very thankful to the state for its support of our FTA grant for driver shields and partnership in providing the capital funding for 4 replacement County Ride vehicles. But much as with the Loop, there are significant increased operational costs that the county continues to bear without any sustained operational increases from our state partners. As we discuss expanding our locally operated transit systems, I want to reiterate that we do believe circulators will play an important role. It's good atmosphere building there, Councilman. I do want to reiterate, we strongly believe that circulators will play an important role in Baltimore County. And with the Towson Loop set to continue service, we will soon turn our sights towards exploring service in other communities that we believe are well suited for such service, starting in places like Catonsville, Owings Mills, and Sparrows Point, with future expansions eyed in places like White Marsh and Middle River and Woodlawn. We again request MDOT support as we continue the planning process for transit services in these additional communities. As we also are committed to providing the basic services the residents count on, including investments to keep our roads safe. That means ensuring that our critical corridors are walkable and safe for pedestrians and cyclists alike. This year's budget alone allocates $2.6 million for a program that will empower residents to make specific requests for both sidewalk and pedestrian ramps. These requests will then be scored independently to help ensure an equitable and effective process that meets the needs of all of our communities. Similarly, we are investing more in our pedestrian walkways at the county level with hundreds of thousands of dollars to continue progress for sidewalks and ramps throughout the Pikesville community. Meanwhile, we continue to invest significantly to ramp up traffic safety and traffic calming events. This is something that's consistently been raised. For example, during our District 5 town hall, we heard a number of concerns from residents about the intersection of Honeygo Boulevard and Cross Road. Since then, more than 3,000 residents have signed a petition to make this road safer. That's why this year's county budget put the funds forward with the creation of a roundabout at this intersection to improve safety and overall flow of traffic. These are just a few examples of our capital investments. In the past 2 years alone, our administration has constructed 80 projects. So in those 2 years, those 80 projects represent over 20% of all safety and calming efforts that have been done since the county's program started 20 years ago. As Baltimore County becomes more bike friendly, we also initiated a new countywide bike pedestrian master plan last year. We are excited to announce the draft plan is now complete and is being released for public comment today. Meanwhile, in our current fiscal year budget, we have also continued investment for major sidewalk projects, including $1 million more in this year's budget for Ingleside Avenue in Catonsville, $1 million more for 7 Mile Lane in Pikesville. And we have leveraged a combination of local and federal funds for new projects, including $3.5 million for Windsor Mill Road in Woodlawn and over $5 million for Rolling Road in Catonsville. Both projects will help increase safety, traffic capacity, and improve pedestrian safety along these main roadways. And they are all examples of how we can leverage a combination of funds to augment Baltimore County's ongoing commitment to infrastructure improvements. Again, because when we do receive funding, our team delivers, and I want to thank them for the ways in which they are doing that, whether that's in Edgemere with our Safe Routes to School proposal now at 90% done, being reviewed by the state, or our final design for Bloomsbury Crossing in Catonsville, which is complete, and we expect to award a contract in the near future to begin construction there. We're on track for the feasibility study for our shared use paths in Baltimore County between the Tory Brown Trail and the Jones Fall Trail. And we've completed the final design and will begin construction on raised sidewalks for the Tory Brown Trail Safety Project next spring. Again, thank you for your support of all of these projects. We look forward to our continued partnership to deliver on them for our shared constituencies. Building on those massive successes, we have applied for 3 major program areas this year, including safety projects for Halliburton, Wise Avenues, and Dundalk, bikeway grants to support construction along the Northeast Trail and the next phase of the Tory Brown Jones Falls connection, and Safe Streets grants to expand and raise crosswalks by schools and to improve the county's crosswalks at one intersection in each of the Baltimore County's 7 councilmanic districts. Looking ahead, we also remain focused on creating a more traffic capacity in White Marsh to alleviate traffic congestion and to help our residents get around. In support of that goal, Baltimore County has extended Campbell Boulevard from White Marsh Boulevard to Route 40. Our next step is to extend Campbell Boulevard to Moores Lane, completing an east-west connection from White Marsh Boulevard to Campbell. And we do ask MDOT to improve Philadelphia Road from Moores Lane to Campbell Boulevard, which is a critical linkage along Campbell. Improvements would increase traffic capacity and roadway safety. And because across all of our county, we are continuing to innovate thanks to new systems like Paver, which is deploying technology and data to evaluate road conditions and streamline our repair and replacement process. And after working with state and local legislative leaders, we're now moving forward with height monitoring systems to redirect large commercial vehicles off of residential roads, which is addressing longstanding community concerns about truck traffic on local roads. Moving forward, we'll continue to explore every opportunity to modernize our transportation systems. I will just conclude again to say I will start where I finished. I am so grateful to have a partner who has an open door, who responds to texts and calls and makes his team available, even as we advocate for what we know and believe are needed resources. We are grateful for the ways in which we have partnered and delivered, and we look forward to continuing to work with MDOT in the years ahead to continue to address our shared priority. So with that, thank you all so very much. And Elizabeth, am I turning things over at this point or to Secretary reports? With that, I'll turn things over to you, Mr. Secretary.
Wow, I got to pull this down a little bit, Johnny. So first of all, before I get started, I just want to say that Mr. County Executive, without a doubt, your team and our team is probably one of the best relationships in the state. I have to be honest with you. I could go down the line right here. I know you stole DeAndrea from us at some point. She used to work for me.
Thank you for not holding that again.
Yeah, no. You know, we always like to see our folks advance. And I know she worked directly for Chrissy Nizer for a while at MVA.
Great.
And you know, Elizabeth, we've always gotten along with her, and Stacy's been a great addition. I tell you, I just literally can't think of a much better team. And when you talk about text, you sent me a text earlier today. I sent you a message back. You're right. We do it all the time. And I really appreciate that relationship. I just want to say that right off the start. So for the record, my name's Jim Ports. I'm Secretary for Maryland Department of Transportation. And I want to thank you for inviting us to provide an overview of our draft 6-year CTP, Consolidated Transportation Program, for the years 2023 through 2028. I brought our MDOT team with me today from State Highway Administration, Administrator Tim Smith, and Acting District Engineer Sutapa Samantha. It's right here. And Aaron's sitting right next to her, Aaron Kuhn, who is like her right-hand person there in the District 4, if you ever call that district office. And from Maryland Transportation Authority, I have Executive Director Will Pines. Maryland Transit Administration, Administrator Holly Arnold. From Maryland Motor Vehicle Administration, Administrator Chrissy Nizer. From the Maryland Aviation Administration, Executive Director Ricky Smith. And from the Maryland Port Administration, Executive Director Bill Doyle. Also joining us from Secretary's Office is Regional Planner Dan Janicek. Where is he? In the back here? And Director of Government Affairs, Pilar Helm, and State Legislative Officer, Melissa Ihorn. So first, I want to thank you for visiting with us in Mako. Mako is a great opportunity for us to connect and understand how we can work together and develop solutions to local challenges. And over the years, I think we've developed a great working relationship, as you mentioned, Mr. County Executive. And I can't emphasize enough that we're not only available, as you know, during Mako or here at the CTP, but all year long, we're just a phone call, text, or email away. So I'm proud of our team. We're accessible and we get things done. Since our Mako meeting, we've already addressed several key issues for your county. Your number one project, you made it very clear from the day that you took office, it was your number one project, Dolefield Road interchange. As you know, I've been in this business for quite a while. I knew how important it was to Baltimore County. I've been trying to focus on getting a priority in each county, along with Governor Hogan's infrastructure emphasis. And we felt that it was time for Dolefield. After about 20 or 30 years, it was time for it to happen. And so we're very proud that we were able to resolve that for you, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And I know that you had talked to us about the lots money, and you're right, you did have county ride, and it fell off for a little while, not under your administration, but you kind of brought things back. And when you look at Anne Arundel County, they've had service for quite a few years, but you know, as we know, the way the federal government pays us for the locally operated transit systems, it takes 2 years of actually providing a service and then putting that information into the NTD, which is a national transit database. And then the federal government will help fund some of those areas. And I believe that in that case, we should be able to start the funding in FY24 for you. And we'll look for ways to expand it after that. Baltimore County, and as you know, Baltimore City and Anne Arundel County have enjoyed the fact that we have MTA that provides a service. And so that's why a lot of the funding wasn't going to those 3 jurisdictions. So if you look at Prince George's and Montgomery County, you'll see a big difference because they operate a lot more service. And there is some more equity now than there used to be. So we'll work together on that. And I did want to make a offhanded comment that when you mentioned the Tory Brown Trail, you know, you're getting old when the people are long gone that you used to work with when he was Secretary of DNR when I was in the House Delegate. So I was sitting there going, oh my goodness, what happens in time, right? But anyway, we'll see what happens there. But now I want to take a minute to look back over what we've accomplished working in partnership with you and other counties from Western Maryland to Eastern Shore. So thanks to Governor Hogan's record investments, transportation infrastructure, we've accomplished a great deal over the last 8 years. With Governor's leadership, MDOT immediately began moving forward in top top transportation priorities in every region across the state. We've improved 100% of the state's highway system, making our roads, bridges much safer, less congested. Of the 69 poorly rated bridges that we recognized in 2015, SHA has repaired or replaced all of them. And now we only have 26 poorly rated bridges, which is a historical low for Maryland. Now, all those 26 bridges are now under construction, funded for construction, or in design. So we're continuing to look at our infrastructure. Also on our list of accomplishments is a switch to all electronic tolling across the state. This move is helping traffic flow better, easing congestion, and helping the environment by not having idling cars. Speaking of tolls, very important reminder, you'll hear a little bit more about this later, but time is running out to pay your unpaid tolls and have the late fees waived. Back in February, we announced a customer assistance plan to help you help your constituents, and we've given customers 9 months to get their late fees waived by paying their unpaid tolls. On September 1st, we started a 90-day countdown. In fact, with 31 days in October, we're throwing in an extra day, but that grace period will end November 30th. So the clock is ticking. As of today, customers only have 49 more days left to pay their bills and have those fees waived. If you haven't already done so, please remind your friends, neighbors, relatives, colleagues, whoever, to take advantage of this money-saving opportunity. Turning to transit, our systems are also more reliable thanks to Governor Hogan's historic investments to lower maintenance-related interruptions. As our infrastructure governor, he kept Maryland's Port of Baltimore and airport open for business throughout the pandemic, with continued investments at BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport and Maryland's Port of Baltimore. At BWI Marshall, we're now handling more air cargo than Reagan National and Dulles combined. And when container ships were backing up at other ports around the country, there were no delays at Maryland's Port of Baltimore. In fact, we welcome ships that were diverted from other ports that couldn't serve their needs. So we'll hear about more about these and major milestones from our transportation business units in a moment. But I want to stress that Governor Hogan has delivered more projects, more money to local jurisdictions through highway user revenues. During the last legislative session, he worked across the aisle to get a great deal for local jurisdictions, increasing the amount of HUR by 33%. The successful negotiations allowed us to amend the bill to be even better than what was originally proposed. And that's a dramatic increase to help you fund your transportation priorities, and will help provide local matching funds to capitalize on funds that will be available through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which we also call the IIJA. MDOT is here to help you navigate that federal process. So speaking of IIJA, I've been asked for the last 9 months what we're funding. Let me go walk over here for a second, because I forgot my prop. Not usually coming up to the podium. They usually just have me sitting. So I took advantage of this, but they ask us what we're funding is, here it is right here. This is what we're funding with the IIJA funds. And I do want to stress, however, that the IIJA funds that we receive is not all new money, as you may have heard. That is absolutely not true. It also includes funding that we had in our 2022 through 27 CTP. And during the next 6 years, the draft CTP for FY 23 through 28, it will add $1.3 billion in new IIJA funding. That's $178 million for airports, $166 million for transit, and $966 million for highways. Now, those allocations that I just mentioned are based on the federal formula outlined in the IIJA by the federal government, and we're all working closely with our federal partners on the specific criteria to program additional projects for both transit and highways. Now, this funding will help us go a long way with state of good repair. It's important to Governor Hogan and, quite frankly, to me, to advance at least one new priority project in every county in Baltimore City in the form of highway, transit, or airport projects. There are also potential for some additional projects in the discretionary grants. As part of IIJA, we're exploring those, and as always, we're here to help you apply for those grants. You may recall at MACO, we talked about this and how there are certain IIJA funds that are only available to local governments that we, the state, are prohibited from putting in for. And so if you see any of those, and again, we'll be glad to help you navigate through some of those. We'll be more than happy to help you in partnership with that. Shifting the details in the CTP, I can start off by telling you this is the largest transportation budget ever. Draft CTP for 23 through 28 totals $19.9 billion. That's $2.2 billion more than the final FY 22 through 27 budget of $17.7 billion. As noted earlier, this draft CTP includes the largest increase in HUR funds, which you could spend on local projects. The 33% increase delivers hundreds of millions more thanks to the agreement between Governor Hogan and the state legislators. That increase of nearly $2.2 billion in this draft CTP includes $1.3 billion in additional IIJA funds, improved revenue estimates post-pandemic, and MDOT's higher share of the corporate state income tax. This CTP devotes 35% of the budget, that's $6.9 billion to system preservation. That's $800 million more than the previous CTP. And these dollars are critical to achieving and maintaining a state of good repair for our roads, bridges, rail, and airports. Just as important, the CTP allows our transportation system to contribute directly to Maryland's economic recovery. And that's the balance that we need, maintaining our assets, delivering major projects, and planning for the future. And that's how we deliver, as you mentioned, Mr. County Executive, a safe, reliable, accessible, and inclusive system for all Marylanders. So I want to say what a great honor it's been working with our dedicated team at MDOT and all the employees who deliver projects and services every day. I've been highlighting a lot of their hard work in a video series that I started called Ports Supports Employees. And so we've shown Marylanders what it's like to be a crane operator, 165 feet up in the air at Maryland's Port of Baltimore. If you watch that video, you will see I am scared to death of heights. You will not see a sequel to that video. And I also went out with MDOT state highway crews to fill potholes. I did every job in filling potholes, and I also went out with FHA crews to pick up litter. Now, this is where Jim Ports talks a little trash. So litter along our highways costs us all some serious dough, more than $60 million over 8 years. That's on average about $7 million per year to pick up trash. $3 million of that is spent right here in Baltimore County. So think about that. I'm sure that all of you can think of better ways to spend $7 million per year. And so we launched a program to encourage people to stop throwing their waste out the window and put it where it belongs. So we've created these reusable bags. If you're familiar with the headrest, you got the two prongs that come down. These fit over the prongs, these two loops, hangs on the back of your seat, puts trash in there. When you get to your destination, you empty the bag. And if you watch the video, you will see that I introduce people to what a trash can looks like. It's a big round silver thing with a lid on it, or it's, made of rubber, but it does not look like our highway system. And we also created these superheroes, Recycle Ruby and Can It Clay, because quite frankly, we thought that if we get to the kids, we can have them shame their parents into not throwing stuff out the windows. That's just not our highway system, state highway system. It's also your county system. It's an issue that I'm sure you hear a lot about, because I know I hear a lot about it. And it's unsafe for our crews to be out there. Like I said, I was out there with them. It's very unsafe, and we want to protect them, but we want to stop litter around here. So we need your help. Please help us spread the word. We've got some extra bags here in the back. And if we all do our part, we can stop garbage and $60 million, get ready for it, folks, from literally going out the window. With that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Tim Smith, Administrator of SHA. Tim, it's on you.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, County Exec and elected officials here. I'm honored to lead the State Highway team and pleasure to be here. We were in person last year, I believe. Glad to be here in person, but it's really a pleasure to lead a team like we have in the District 4. Jim mentioned Sutapa, but we also have a new person we've added to the roster. Claudine Myers is our acting deputy district engineer, and as well as Aaron Kuhn. So I know we're building a great team there that will support Baltimore County. So last year when I was here, you heard me talk about kind of three things on how we were building our shelf of projects. It was asset management, kind of looking at those infrastructure, transportation infrastructure needs to be in a state of good repair. And that's beyond pavements and bridges. That includes traffic signals, barrier, our drainage. I talked about accessibility too, looking at that getting towards zero deaths and vision zero, but looking at for our vulnerable users, not just motorists. And lastly, it's mobility and not necessarily maybe the traditional sense, but using intelligent transportation systems, using technology to best use the existing footprint to get vehicles from point A to B as efficiently and as safely as possible. So you'll see in a CTP through the suite of SHA projects, we kind of cover the gambit of those areas, going from asset management to accessibility to mobility. But you heard Secretary Ports talk about the projects we've done kind of statewide. I just wanted to highlight a few right here we've done in Baltimore County over the last few years. One of which is we're making great strides there with the interchange project there at Sparrows Point, which involves the replacement of 3 structures. And specifically for all those transportation data geeks out there, that's Maryland 151 and 151B. But that's at Sparrows Point Boulevard and Wharf Road. At the time when we began this construction, all 3 of those structures were rated in poor condition. But that kind of goes back to that state of good repair and asset management I was talking about. But in addition to that, the scope will improve accessibility through the area, as well as enhance safety, and as well as support commerce to Trade Point Atlantic and businesses in the area. So as of just last month, I guess it's 2 months ago now, August, we were able to open up one movement there on the northbound on Wharf Road, and we're expecting that southbound movement to be open sometime soon. Overall, we've replaced 2 structures. We're still working on the 3rd one, but that project is on track and expected to be complete in the spring of 2024. In addition, this summer, we completed a project on I-83 at Padonia. So that project included both those bridges there. Both structures were 52 years old at the time. And we widened Padonia Road as well as made geometric improvements on the southbound movement there on I-83. We also kicked off I-6095 there at the Southwest Outer Loop, our noise wall improvements, as well as we're going to be replacing 10 bridge decks along that whole southwest corridor between near I-95. We're also making great progress on kind of our innovative solution there to improve traffic flow on the Baltimore Beltway from basically I-70 to Maryland 43. You might affectionately hear me call it a Tizmo project, but what that Tizmo stands for is Transportation Systems Management and Operations. Basically, that's a combination of using geometric hardcore civil engineering improvements, but back to kind of using some of those intelligent transportation systems, ITS solutions that I was mentioning. So what you'll see is that Governor Hogan announced that project as part of the traffic relief plan, I think in 2017. Don't quote me on the date there, but I think that's what it happened. But that's a design build project that we're looking at back to that kind of intelligent transportation system part. We're looking at active traffic management system there. So we're going to be utilizing automated incident detection, meaning when there's a crash on the Baltimore Beltway, installing a lot of additional cameras, and I'll go untechy for a sec, doodads and widgets along the entire Baltimore Beltway. But what's that going to do is going to facilitate part-time shoulder use and improve incident management. So when you're using the part-time shoulder, if a vehicle breaks down, we want to know that immediately. So we will have gantries over that and have signals let you know whether that part-time shoulder use is available or not. So you'll probably see a lot of work going on in the median this summer. We're doing putting a lot of fiber when you have a lot of intelligent transportation systems, you need fiber to kind of help you deliver that. In addition, another component was the governor's traffic relief plan was the I-695, it's I-70, basically the triple bridges. So once complete, the triple bridges will address kind of back to that aging infrastructure part that I mentioned, but also accessibility needs. So in the coming weeks, we're going to be having some virtual meetings as well as an open house where the public can kind of share their feedback. And more importantly, we can kind of get their feedback, but also share what our ideas are for that project. And that's also another design build project that we're anticipating will start in 2024. So as the secretary mentioned, we're kind of harnessing the advantage of the IIJ funding and trying to like add value across the state over the next 5 years. It's already been said, so I won't beat the dead horse too bad. But one of those big projects we funded was moving forward with I-795 at Dolefield there in Owings Mills. So that project includes, like I said, constructing a new interchange there at Dolefield, but also improving mobility and congestion improvements along 795. So in closing, I just kind of want to stress kind of what's already been talked about, but the continued collaboration. I know DeAndrea and I talk a lot or text back and forth a lot as well. The more we understand each other's needs, also our constraints and where we're faced with challenges, I think that builds better relationships. It also builds better products for everyone because folks don't know whether they're on a state road or a county road. They just want to make sure they get from point A to B. So I appreciate everyone's patience listening to me, and I'm going to turn it over to my teammate at MDTA, Will Pines.
All right, well, thank you, Tim, and good afternoon. Again, thank you, Tim, and good afternoon, state, county, and local distinguished elected officials. I'm Will Pines, Executive Director for the Maryland Transportation Authority. As the Secretary mentioned, time is running out with the MDTA's civil penalty waiver grace period. Please take advantage of the plan now by paying unpaid video tolls either in one payment or incrementally between now and 11:59 p.m. on November 30th. I know that's a really specific point, but we do want to make it clear that the program is coming to an end. For every video toll transaction paid in full during the 9-month waiver grace period, the related civil penalty is waived. Toll bill referrals to the Central Collections Unit and MBA have ceased temporarily and will resume on December 1st. Starting December 1st, customers will be responsible for the full amounts of all unpaid tolls and civil penalties, which will be due based on the printed due dates. Some good news, our call and wait and web chat wait times are much lower than before, so customers can easily reach us to resolve any of their tolling questions or needs. The MDTA has also completed posting online all Maryland customer tolls that were deferred during the COVID-19 pandemic. The MDTA encourages customers to check their account on driveeasymd.com and pay their tolls before the civil penalties are assessed. You should have received our letter encouraging you to alert your constituents to start making those toll payments. So please don't wait until it's too late. Now let me update you on some of our projects. The MDTA is focused strongly on our system preservation program, including right here in the Sparrows Point area. We expect to begin a project next year to repair and rehabilitate the roadway and bridges on I-695 at Sparrows Point near the Bear Creek Bridge. Separately, related to our AET program, although all electronic tolling or AET is in effect statewide, some work remains at the tunnels to remove the former toll plazas to bring highway speed AET at those facilities. Construction is underway to convert the Fort McHenry tunnel to highway speed AET by the winter of 2022 and 2023. Preliminary engineering is also underway to bring highway speed AET to the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel in 2026. Also, a new automated lane closure system. Tim talked a little bit about Tizmo. This is one of our Tizmo projects for opening and closing lanes at nighttime and off-peak for the maintenance of inside of our harbor tunnel. And that's expected to be operational this fall. We are also working on a project south of the Fort McHenry Tunnel to use Tizmo solutions to improve traffic and safety. We're currently studying the benefits of interchange reconfiguration, part-time shoulder use, and active traffic management. This project will improve access to and from Baltimore City and the port by addressing Maryland's 13th worst corridor for truck traffic based on the most recent mobility report. We're also making progress on our $1.1 billion I-95 express toll lane northbound extension program. Construction is currently underway to widen the I-95 region between Maryland 43 White Marsh Boulevard and Maryland 152 Mountain Road to make way for 2 extended northbound express toll lanes. The extension is expected to open in that first segment by the end of 2024, and that's going to go up through 152. And the full extension to north of Maryland 24 will open in 2027. Last year, a new park and ride lot opened at the intersection of Maryland 924 and Woodsdale Road with accommodations for transit, ride sharing, bicycles, and pedestrians. In a new development, the MDTA will also construct the ramps that connect the I-95 inner and outer loops to the northbound ETL lanes on I-95. This will open up additional commerce opportunities from Trade Point Atlantic and the Beltway access to nearly 15 miles of northbound ETL lanes in 2027 when the full northbound extension opens. As for the Mount Vista Park project, we look forward to working with Baltimore County, signing the agreement for the former Rakowski property and former Schmidt property swap. It's a mouthful. This agreement will allow us to move forward on an important project to improve safety with direct access to the highway so that we don't have to impact the community from our maintenance needs. For those of you traveling on the Bay Bridge, we've just completed our open houses for the $28 million Bay Crossing Study Tier 2 NEPA in early September. The governor announced the funding for the Tier 2 in June following the Federal Highway Administration's April approval of the combined final environmental impact statement and record of decision for the Bay Crossing Study Tier 1 NEPA. The 4 to 5 year Tier 2 study will build upon the Tier 1 findings and identify specific alignment alternatives within Corridor 7. That Corridor 7 is the 2-mile corridor that runs between the Severn River Bridge in Anne Arundel County to US 50 301 split in Queen Anne's County. So please visit baycrossingstudy.com for more information. There's a comment period that is open through that website that can be submitted for that NEPA study through this Friday, October 14th. I just want to thank you for having me today, and I'll turn it over to Holly Arnold to talk to you about the MTA.
Great. Thank you, Will. Thank you, County Executive, other elected officials for having us here today. For the record, I'm Holly Arnold, the administrator at the Maryland Transit Administration. And I'd first like to congratulate you on the 1-year anniversary of the Towson Loop. That's fantastic. And thank you to Andrea, especially for her coordination. As we all know, when people are traveling, county and city jurisdictional boundaries don't matter when people are trying to get where they're going to and from. And that close coordination has really helped, I think, both of our systems to be successful. So thank you for that. And I'm glad to report that, it's an exciting time in transit in Maryland. In June, MTA celebrated the 5-year anniversary of the Baltimore Link launch, which brought high-frequency transit with buses arriving every 15 minutes or less to the region. In addition to a more efficient transit network, the Baltimore Link also set the stage for dozens of other innovations and enhancements for the rider experience. Most notably, real-time GPS capability on transit app on all of our fixed route service, enabling riders to know when their bus or train will arrive. Implementation of nearly 13 miles of dedicated bus lanes, reducing travel times by up to 25%, and installation of transit signal priority to speed up travel times by 22%. We also launched the mobile fare payment with Charm Pass, and most recently our Charm Flex 3 and 10-day passes in response to those riders who need more flexible commute options. MTA also continues to make significant investments in state of good repair projects to ensure that the transit system remains a safe and reliable option for the region. Items planned for funding and the draft CTP between now and 2028 include over $400 million for bus replacements, including for zero-emission buses starting in 2025, over $900 million for Metro Subway and Light Rail Link projects, and over $300 million for MARC train improvements. MTA is also preparing for the future of transit. The $65 million MARC Riverside Heavy Maintenance Facility in Baltimore is nearing completion and will enable MTA to enhance its locomotive and railcar maintenance capabilities and will help support major transportation infrastructure improvements along the Northeast Corridor. In June, MTA announced as part of the Central Maryland Regional Transit Plan implementation, the East-West Corridor Feasibility Study, and just a few weeks ago released the North-South Corridor Feasibility Study for public comment. We look forward to continuing our implementation efforts in coordination with the county. As ridership continues to grow and travel patterns change, we remain unwavering in our commitment to our riders. As part of this, the CTP dedicates $43 million in fast-forward customer experience enhancements across the transit network. These fund things like new dedicated bus lanes, bus stops and transit hubs, including equity-focused ADA improvements, wayfinding, and bike and shared mobility improvements. These investments demonstrate our priority to accelerate rider-focused initiatives and projects that provide meaningful benefits to the communities that we serve. Partnerships have really been key to our successes in receiving federal grant awards that advance our key transit projects. In 2021, we received the $22 million East-West Priority Corridor RAISE grant to improve transit options from Fox Ridge to CMS, and we're advancing design of those plans now. And in August, we were awarded another RAISE grant for $6 million for the Building Baltimore Penn Station Connections grant to enhance transportation improvements in and around this true hub for the Central Maryland region. And we're also actively working with Amtrak to advance discussions on replacing the aging BMP tunnel with the new Frederick Douglass tunnel, and we hope to finalize an agreement soon. Last but not least, we're aggressively transitioning towards a zero-emission bus fleet, investing over $436 million for our zero-emission vehicles program, bus pilots, and bus procurement, with the first buses set to arrive in mid-2023. And then finally, MTA does make a significant investment in transit in Baltimore County by providing nearly $1.4 million in operating and capital grants to support our local transit operation. So thank you for your time, and I'll now turn it over to Chrissy Nizer at MBA.
Thank you, Holly, and it's a pleasure to be here with everybody this afternoon. At MDOT MBA, we remain focused on providing that premier customer service, both inside our branch offices, as well as through our alternative services for customers' convenience. One of the main ways we've been able to accomplish that is really through our IT project we've called Customer Connect. You've heard me talk about it the last few years, and I'm really proud to say that we've fully deployed that as of December of last year. So that enables us to have that 360 view of the customer, meaning we can see anything related to your driver license, your vehicle registration, all in one place to allow us to better serve you, as well as to allow our customers to find out information about themselves. And so it's enabled us to put more transactions out there on the internet for customers to take advantage of at their convenience. In fact, now 74% of our transactions are done outside of that traditional transaction with a customer agent at our branch offices. So it's great to see that customers are really taking advantage of those services. We're encouraging everybody to sign up for your My MBA account. That gives you access to any correspondence we've sent to you since we deployed the new system, the status of your driver's license, your vehicle registration, when your beep test might be, and if you're a commercial driver, information about that status as well. You can also use that to do secure online transactions as well as set up appointments. We do remain appointment only at our MBA branch offices, and that has really enabled us to serve our customers much more efficiently. In fact, now more than 75% of our customers experience a wait time of 15 minutes or less. So we're really proud of that. And we're also continuing to expand this idea of a one-stop shop. You've heard a lot about customers don't care whether it's a county facility or a state facility, and we approach our branch offices in the same way. So at our Essex branch location, we have Department of Natural Resources services. So if you have that boat that you need to take care of, you can do that at the same time if you're taking care of your trailer with us. We also have a newly opened EasyPass customer service center. So if you want to take care of that EasyPass, you can do it at the same location. And so we're really proud of that. In May, we were the second state in the country to deploy our Apple Mobile ID. And that's a really great program where it's voluntary for our customers. There's no charge for it. And you can use it at TSA checkpoints at BWI Airport, as well as Reagan National and many other airports throughout the country. So you can securely and quickly get through the checkpoint that way. You may ask, why would I want my driver's license or ID card on my wallet? It's really about protecting your information and only sharing what you need to. Perfect example is at TSA. You might think they need everything on your license to be able to confirm you are who you say you are. The reality is they only needed 4 data points as we worked with them through the process. And so not sharing more data than you need to enables you to protect that information. We know how important that is for our customers. And if you're an Android user, don't worry, we're working on a solution there too. It'll be very similar in the wallet solution. So, customers are used to using that for a variety of services at this point. We also remain very focused on Real ID, and we've talked about that a lot. Maryland residents are now 88% Real ID compliant, so really done a great job in getting that taken care of. That compares with 51% of Americans, so we're well ahead of that trend. The deadline does remain May of 2023, so we'll continue to push out education as we get closer to that deadline. One other creative thing we've done relative to Real ID, again, at our Essex branch office, we started a program working in partnership with the Department of Health and the Vital Records Office to be able to issue birth certificates to Maryland-born residents. So if you come to see us and you need to get that Real ID and you need to present your documents, but you don't have an identity document and you were born in Maryland, you can go to one agent, get a birth certificate. You'll walk out of the office with that birth certificate, you pay the fee for it, but no additional fee, just the fee required for the birth certificate. And then you go and get your license. So you don't have to leave and then come back again. So it's been a great service. And just since we started doing it, 440 customers have taken advantage of it. So really proud of that partnership. And it is MBA agents who are performing that service for our customers. In addition to customer service, we're obviously dedicated to saving lives on our roadways. Just last year, we lost 563 people. And obviously, I know we all agree that is 563 too many. We continue to see the same issues, so speed and impairment and lack of wearing seatbelts. In September, Governor Hogan announced more than $2.1 million for Baltimore County agencies specifically to address highway safety. We always encourage local jurisdictions to adopt strategic highway safety plans. I want to thank the county executive for his leadership, as well as DeAndrea and shepherding that through with her team. We really appreciate the partnership that we have with Baltimore County in the area of safety. And that's really how it works when we have the federal, state, and local levels all pulling together. The bipartisan infrastructure law also made funds available to implement local plans. And I want to stress that SHA for the first time has funds that are available to local jurisdictions who have highway safety plans of their own. So I encourage you to look into that as well. At MBA, we really do strive to be the best we can at everything we do, but I always have to emphasize it's only through the great work of our employees who have been out there during challenging times, continuing to deliver that premier customer service, but also going above and beyond in implementing some of these great new projects that we put forward. So again, thank you for your time. And I'm now going to turn it over to Ricky Smith at the Aviation Administration.
Thank you, Christy. Good afternoon, County Executive and members of your team, other representatives of Baltimore County. It's good to be with you this afternoon and to provide you an update on the important matters going on at the Maryland Aviation Administration. So BWI Marshall Airport and Martin State Airport are important economic engines and transportation resources for the state of Maryland and the entire region. Martin State Airport, for example, is a critical general aviation reliever airport providing important services to corporate, personal, emergency law enforcement, and military operators. BWI Marshall and our airline partners support commerce, including tourism, business development, and cargo operations. We do this while also being a good neighbor. At BWI Marshall, we have a comprehensive noise program to help support our local communities, including a system with nearly 30 sophisticated noise monitors placed throughout the region. We created and supported the DC Metroplex BWI Community Roundtable, which has worked to make important changes to airline flight procedures at BWI Marshall Airport to the benefit of our neighbors. In August, the FAA presented proposed changes to these local flight procedures. The roundtable agreed that the FAA's recommendations were consistent with their proposed changes and voted to support the FAA's plans to move forward with the improvements. This was a critical and crucial step in bringing important relief to nearby communities, including some aspects of this county. We acknowledge and thank the roundtable for their diligent work and for successfully completing their mission. At the airport, airline and passenger traffic continue to rebound, trending at about 80% of pre-pandemic levels. And during certain peak travel periods, passenger traffic has approached levels not seen since the pandemic. 3 new airlines have launched new service at BWI Marshall in recent months, and several new or returning international and domestic airline routes have been added to the airport this year. Beyond passenger traffic, air cargo continues to be a bright spot for the airport. Last year, BWI Marshall set a new annual record for cargo operations with more than 618 million pounds of cargo transported. Now, this may not be a big deal for the port, but in the airport industry, this is a pretty big deal. In this region, that makes up more than 55% of the total air cargo flown through the region through major commercial airports. We have several major capital projects underway that will add new services and amenities for our customers while also providing important facilities for our airline partners. Our $55 million program and restroom improvement program is expanding and enhancing 6 sets of restrooms throughout the airport terminal. The improved facilities will help ensure that our passengers have an excellent experience. Just this morning, for example, the Board of Public Works approved a $382 million contract as a part of a larger project that will allow us to start site development that is currently underway for construction of a major maintenance hangar at Southwest Airlines. As the first Southwest maintenance facility at the Northeast US, the hangar will accommodate 3 Boeing 737 aircraft along with exterior apron space for 8 more aircraft. And the major multi-year Concourse 8B baggage handling system program, which the Board of Public Works approved this morning, will allow passenger experience and provide additional capacity for Southwest Airlines. This $425 million project is the largest single capital project in the airport's history. It will introduce a state-of-the-art baggage handling system, as well as a new food and retail set of options, restrooms, and a direct connection between concourses A and B. In addition to these capital improvements, the bipartisan infrastructure law provides $178 million for both BWI Marshall and Martin State Airport. The federal funding will advance important airfield improvement projects that assist with safety and operational efficiency. So the Maryland Aviation Administration will continue to support the 35 public use airports that service our communities around the state for a statewide aviation grant program that provides important state funding and support for airport improvement projects. And thanks to Secretary Ports for his generous support of that program. MAA intends to administer $3.5 million in state grants during fiscal year 2023 in regional airports across Maryland. Again, thank you, and I will now turn it over to my good friend, Bill Doyle, Maryland Port Administration.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Secretary Ports, County Executive Olszewski, my fellow administrators, public officials, and the public. 2022 has been a very busy year for the Port of Baltimore. While the international maritime shipping industry continues to deal with pandemic impacts that have disrupted supply chains and manufacturing, the Port of Baltimore has added new services, welcomed diverted ships from other ports, and is working closely with our port partners, including Ports America, Chesapeake, to accommodate current future cargo demands at the Seagirt Marine Terminal. Recently, we've added 2 new services from the Mediterranean Shipping Company, MSC. One, an around-the-world service between Asia and the Panama Canal, as well as the U.S. and Suez Canal. It's an around-the-world service, starts in Asia, through the Panama Canal, hits Baltimore, back through the Mediterranean Sea, through the Suez Canal, and back to Asia. We also added a new service on Zim Shipping Lines, the Israeli carrier, which is an e-commerce focused service from China and Southeast Asia to the East Coast, with Baltimore as the first port, and reflects our strong capabilities as the top e-commerce port in the country. Now, I want to pause there for a second. The e-commerce are the distribution centers that have been built over the past 7 years in and around the Port of Baltimore. That includes Baltimore County's Trade Point Atlantic. The amount of distribution centers at Trade Point Atlantic has helped attract these new services. We have projects currently in the pipeline that presently and in the near future will improve efficiency, increase capacity, and reduce turn times for our truckers, such as adding additional gantry cranes, adding a new outbound truck gate, beginning a digital appointment system, and going paperless for the truckers coming in and out of the port. Earlier this year, we put into operation 4 additional ultra-large Neopanimax container cranes. These cranes are part of a $166 million investment by Ports America Chesapeake. The additional cranes nicely complement the Howard Street Tunnel Expansion Project, which will allow for double stack container rail cars and clearing long time hurdles for Baltimore. This is a $200 million investment from the state, $125 million from the federal government, $113 million from CSX, $22 million from the state of Pennsylvania. And again, part of the agreement that was negotiated in order to get Howard Street Tunnel completed with CSX was trackage rights from the port to the gate of Trade Point Atlantic. So Trade Point Atlantic will be able to run rail from their distribution centers, from their docks, directly to the Midwest as part of the deal. It will give the East Coast seamless double stack capacity from Maine to Florida. Construction is underway, and when it's completed in 2025, Baltimore will be able to send double stack containers by rail into the Ohio Valley and on into Chicago, Detroit, and Columbus, Ohio. Finally, I want to mention the big news in our dredging world, the Mid-Chesapeake Bay Ecosystem Restoration Project. And again, this does have a direct impact on Baltimore County. This is a $4 billion commitment by the feds and the state, 65% federal, 35% state money over 30 years. So what happens in this situation is the dredge material for the ships that come into the Port of Baltimore and the ships that go into Trade Point Atlantic will be able to have the depth from Virginia all the way through the Chesapeake Bay, up into the Inner Harbor and to Trade Point Atlantic for the next 30 years. And the beauty of it is we don't waste the material that we dredge from the ocean floor. We rebuild our barrier islands in the Chesapeake Bay, Poplar Island, Hop Miller Island, and then you have the James and Barron Islands, which is the midday. We don't waste anything. With the Port of Baltimore and the Maryland Port Administration, I do speak regularly with the officials at Trade Point Atlantic. I have a good relationship with them. We work together. Their interests are our interests. And for now, that is a quick snapshot of the Maryland Port Administration, Port of Baltimore. And I would like to turn it back to Secretary Ports. Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, I'd just like to thank you for inviting us to explain our 6-year CTP plan. As you can see, we got a lot going on and an awful lot that directly impacts Baltimore County. And with that, Mr. County Executive, turn it back to you. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you or any of your folks may have.
Just everybody can hear. Before we do that, Mr. Secretary, I just want to thank you and your team again for the time, for the presentation. What wasn't said is that we recognize that even as we advocate for Baltimore County government specific projects, there are a host of places in which both state infrastructure and shared infrastructure, places like the Howard Street Tunnel, are great examples of additional investment. While not directly with us on our projects, we know contribute significantly to the economy and to really the growth and potential that we're investing in together. So I want to acknowledge that. Just as we also acknowledge the state support of things like the Maryland Cycling Classic, sort of reinforcing that we can and are become a destination for not just national, but international attention because of the networks we've built together. So with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Elizabeth Sachs. If there are elected officials who wanted to make any comments or ask any questions, we will give you all the opportunity. Then from there, if there's any other staff or even a member from the public that has a question, but we will open it up to Elizabeth. And then after that, we can wrap. So Elizabeth, the floor is yours.
Sure. I want to take 1 second before I ask our elected officials to make any comments. We don't miss an opportunity to celebrate here in Baltimore County. And as was mentioned by the county executive, this is the 1-year anniversary of the launch of the Towson Loop. We have a cake in the back to celebrate that. So I'm going to ask one of my friends from county government to go and start cutting the cake so that people can have some either now or on their way out.
Happy birthday.
No, Andrea, is it your birthday? No. But again, it wouldn't have happened without, we're really singing?
No.
But no, just, and we would not have the loop without, the partnership of MDOT, MTA. And I think on that note, I am going to recognize Councilman Marks first, to come up and give comments if you'd like. And then if that's okay, Senator. Your hands both went up at the same time, actually.
Councilman, you missed your shot.
Oh, here, there's a mic here. Councilman. Oh,
Yeah, how you doing, Dave?
okay, we have that mic there if you don't mind. I don't know. Sorry.
Thank you very much, County Executive, Secretary Courts, everyone on your teams. It's a pleasure being here. I'll be very brief. I was Chief of Staff at the Maryland Department of Transportation for 4 years. I'm Governor Ehrlich. I'm aware of the importance of the CTP forum, and I'm also aware of the real power of working together. I want to thank all of you for your splendid activities over the past 4 years. There's really too many to be named. But Luke, very excited, very proud of that. So thank you for the partnership with the county executive. I know it was very helpful with the SBA. But I also, in particular, want to thank you all for your work with the Kingsville Land Transfer. And for the audience members, we've been working for many years to transfer a Maryland Transportation Authority site next to I-95. Excuse me, back up. Maryland Transportation Authority site, the Wachowski Farm, and move those activities closer to 95. It's a great land swap. It's supported by the community. It moves industrial use closer to a highway. And that would not have been possible without bipartisan leadership at both levels of government. So kudos to you all, and look forward to coming back in the future.
All right, we'll go right to left center.
First of all, I want to thank the partnership. You can just, in this audience, you can see just how well you work together by your conversations. And I want to thank you for working together. Because you can see in our county, in our state, it doesn't make a difference. And I want to thank the court for extending yourself to Trade Fund Atlantic. That right there, as the county executive knows, as the secretary knows, that has made a difference in the world for what has come in our court and now how they're working together. So I want to thank you so much for working together. And I see that personally, of course, that's in my district. And that's important to me, but I know it's so much more important to us. But I wanted to say, I want to thank you for looking into our sidewalks and I think how important that is to us. We've been looking at that, as you know, for a long time as a resident there. It's important to us to continue to work with that. Trade Point Atlantic is also looking into, as we're working in repairing that overpass that has been so important for the trucks to come in and out and going down the peninsula. As the federal government is giving money there also to do that repair, and we have an opportunity to talk about that. I want to thank you for the partnership in that, because that's going to make a world of difference and transporting coming through that area. We know the traffic and the truck traffic has been a major problem. And I know we've been working at that in the port and freight, and we want to continue to work with that because it's an ongoing problem. So I want to get the opportunity to be a part of the transportation committee and subcommittee for budget tax. I still like to have conversations about that because that's an ongoing problem. And I think we need to look into that. And right in the area of the landscape and the beautification coming down North Point Boulevard. I know that's been a conversation, and I talked to Aaron Margaret, and I hope we'll continue looking at that to make it fair. To show the beauty of what we're doing there and down North Point Boulevard on 51. And other than that, I want to thank you very much for your time.
Senator Hedelman.
Thank you very much. I want to echo the thanks to everybody. We do have constituents that call us regularly and for the most part are really responsive, so I do appreciate that. I want to raise a couple of things. One, I want to echo the county executive remarks and celebration about Goldfield Road. That's in the 11th district, so that's great to see. And I spoke with the head of the Olszewski Business Roundtable this morning. We're very excited, so thank you. Padonia Road Bridge, thank you. Glad to see that is finished. We're on its way there. The final steps are being done, so thank you about that as well. A couple of issues I want to raise. I encourage and I'm happy to hear that there might be a second loop in Owens Mill, and would love to see that. There are great acre institutions up there that and a lot of people that I think could really benefit from that. So look forward to seeing that. Couple of issues that actually just came up last night in a community association meeting, musical community association interview here from them about the north-south, the bus. In fact, they just posted comments, so just giving you a heads up. Two is the Louisville light rail station. I'm glad to hear the efforts about trash. That is still, and we've been in touch about that in years past, but that's still an issue and accessibility to that station. And three is we have been hearing from constituents about the trying to pay the tolls, and there's been some delays, I think, in the past invoicing. And so we just want to make sure that everybody who's making an attempt before that deadline hits and is in the queue is able to be able to take advantage of this. So and kudos on the walkability, bikeability. We have a lot of that in our district needs more, and our constituents are asking for more. I know the Campbell Road is set to benefit from some of those changes. So as well as connecting the Jones Falls up and out. So thank you for that. And if anybody wants to respond to that.
Sure. I'll begin the response. So first of all, thank you for complimenting us on the Goldfield as well as the other projects that you mentioned. And as far as the second loop in Owens Mills, that obviously that'll be in the county plan, and then we'll work with them as needed. Again, that has to go into NTD, and then we have to work together to make sure that occurs. Of course, we can also help you on some of the capital needs with the buses. The north-south study, thanks for the heads up. I'm not surprised. We expect to hear some things, and quite frankly, we value community input. That's why we have the studies, and that's why we have the public meetings, so that we can gather that input to find out, where things should be, where they should not be, where they're welcome, where they're not. That's all part of the process. So, we encourage you to encourage them to contact us. Be nice about it a little bit, but that literally that's what we want to hear. You heard about the Rakowski Smith property. That's what the county executive did. He had a process with the community. We've heard from the community, and we're working together to make sure we would resolve anything that occurs. That's how we work together. Lutherville Station, I know I would just whisper to the county executive. It's one of the things I forgot to mention today. I know that he and his team are working on a TOD in that area, and we're more than willing to help on that. Obviously, it has to come from the county, because you all do zoning, not us, and that's the way you want to keep it. And as we receive that information, and we do make suggestions on maybe expanding it like we did in the Essex area or that Martin State area, we can give extra information. Say, hey, I know you asked for this, but you might want to go a little larger, and we'll work with you on that. So we have a very collaborative process with regard to that. We're happy to help. And as far as paying your tolls, yes, there were some delays. Most of that was from the delay and the backlog from the pandemic. We're actually now, all new tolls are being sent out within the 14-day time period, maybe even a little sooner. Will, you might be able to address it. He's a little closer to it than I am, but a lot of the all the backlog's taken care of. So all those older payments and waiting on some of those should be completed. And as we move forward, it should be about a 14-day period, just from the time you go through the toll and you receive your bill. With Will, you want to expand on that?
Sure. Yeah, like I mentioned in my remarks, just the background here. Between March of 2020 and October of 2020, we had a pause on mailing of notices of toll due. And also some of the ICC transactions were also paused because those are formed across multiple gantries and often have image based transactions that are incorporated in those trips. So those were paused again between March and October of 2020. As we've been metering them out, you know, we have customers that want them to come faster, some that want to come slower as they receive old tolls along with their new tolls. So we have cleared all of those older backlog tolls that had accumulated from 2020 and 2021 as we had been metering them. But we are still running some tolls from 2022. But we've had to date over 500,000 customers who have already taken advantage of the civil penalty waiver program. So we know it's actively working. Our call wait times Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this week have been under 10 seconds. So if there's any questions about their tolls, it's very easy to reach us now. And we have had some customers who, if they have like license plate covers and other issues that make reading the tags a little more difficult, where the DMV lookups are slower, that we have to do more manual reviews. So those transactions post a little slower sometimes, but for the most part, most customers are running current, as Jim noted.
So this is a consistency just with staff that she has been found not longer to pay a current bill, not a staff bill. But she said that when you call, there's been no invoice on the bill, so they can't take it for money.
Oh,
And she was very concerned that if she doesn't get invoice by the end of November, then she'll have to pay the penalty. So there seems to be an invoice in this below, and that was her concern. So she, you know, she knows she needs to pay the toll. She calls and she calls, sorry, there's no invoice, and she even gave it an account. Now, your craft governmental relations staff and all of the people.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. With it.
So, but. The concern that this was a big problem in the
As I mentioned, there are some cases where license plates can be kind of challenging and we have to do a manual review of those license plates. So those sometimes do take longer to post. And that's why we encourage everybody to get an easy pass. If we can read your easy pass, you get your transaction within days, frankly, at this point. It's really those video transactions that are a little longer. Without knowing the circumstances, when the transaction date was, when posted, it's hard to know what the specific circumstances were. Obviously, no, as Jim mentioned, yeah, we're typically running within 2 weeks. There are transactions that we are still trying to do the DMV lookups on that are more challenging to process, but outside of those, we're running current.
Okay.
And if there's a specific constituent that has a challenge, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to. Yeah.
I just want to make two more comments. One is, we have been in touch with the office about the Tizmo project. We have some concerns about noise, the sound barrier. So we'll follow up on that conversation. And another compliment, we have been hearing far fewer complaints about mobility.
okay, great.
Perfect, but it is on upswing.
Definitely not a perfect system. Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Will, 10 seconds. Can you do a little better?
I'll go sit in the office.
Okay.
Councilman Patoka.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, County Executive, thank you, Secretary Ford, and thank you to your administrators. It was a fine presentation, it was really informative. I represent, well, if I'm lucky enough to be reelected, I will represent all the neighborhoods that are inside 695, from Windsor Mill Road to Charles Street. And so each one of those neighborhoods has a state highway that is an opportunity for commercial development. And also, we have two light rail, we have light rail and metro that run through the second district. So we've got all these opportunities we have from Liberty Road to Charles Street, Windmill Road to Charles Street. And so I bring this up because I know that in state government, we focus, it's a very large state, we focus on the macro, and at the council level, we focus on the micro and the state highways that are run through our commercial areas. So I'm glad to see Mr. Howard here, and thanks county executive for bringing the leadership in. Because in working in the micro and our commercial corridors, that state highway or that metro line or that light rail line is really important to us in terms of what does the parking look like on that state highway, what is the commercial, is it a complete street, how do we make it more attractive for commercial activities? And it's important at the micro level, at the council level for each of those. So Liberty Road is a little bit more challenging. I think I'm 26, right?
Oh, yeah.
Check the state highway. But it's really important for us to look at that individually and how to maximize opportunities. As well. And finally, just want to acknowledge Aaron Smith has been a great partner at the local level, and we've had some issues that are really unique to the second district, and Aaron is really good about helping resolve that. That's it. Thank you. And just remember the commercial corridors in our neighborhoods that are important to Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate? Anybody else? Delegate Forbes, sure.
Thank you all for the wonderful presentation. Thank you, Executive Secretary Ford. We appreciate all of what you're doing all across the state. I appreciate the North-South corridor study. I appreciate how available it has been with my constituents for comment, and I appreciate the meeting that's coming up in the next month. So thank you for involving us all early. We know there are issues on North Road currently that it gets to a point where it's a standstill. And so making our north-south corridor more reliable will get more people on transportation. I know people currently that would like to use it, but don't find the reliability there. And I have one constituent who was so frustrated by the buses not arriving at the Lutherville light rail station that he started to walk home because that was better for him than being upset about waiting for a bus. And he would get on the bus whenever it would come by on his walk home. And sometimes he got all the way home without the bus coming. So whatever we can do to improve that, we'll get more people on it. Additionally, we know there are pinch points currently, like in front of Towson University is always a mess, especially between the Towson High School and the Towson University traffic. And so in solving these problems, I think we'll look to fix that and work with the university to fix both the pedestrian and an automobile. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Ruth.
Hi. You hear me? Okay. I want to thank County Executive Olszewski and Secretary Ford and all the administrators for being here today and for all of your work. I just wanted to say first I was happy that I'm happy to take Joe's on the list for the circulator program. I hope that we can move forward with that. Chesapeake obviously is perfect for this type of transit. I'm also happy to see Woodlawn being considered. It would be a great complement to the revitalization work that we're doing with Woodlawn, and I hope that we can, fund and move forward with the program in all the communities that are being considered, including Woodlawn. And I also hope that moving forward we can move towards zero emission buses on that program as well.
Of course, transit in general is really important for our economic and our environmental goals. So anytime we can bring in, particularly, environmentally sustainable transit, that's a good thing. I'm very happy about the East-West corridor study. I appreciate all the work that's being done on that. As you know, my dissertation, I sent a letter in support of Alternative 6, and I want to thank you, Secretary Ford, for your response on that. Alternative 6 was one of only 2 alternatives that would bring rail into my district, which is 44B, which is important not only to get people from point A to point B, but as a factor in helping to encourage economic development that is much needed in that area. So thank you very much. And,
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments? Any members of the public who were here to comment? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. The cake has been cut. The coffee's still here. So,
Not at all.
I hope you'll take some, and thank you all very much for coming today.
You do. He's got it. Great.
Just, introduced all the guests and secretary.
Good.
Oh, pardon me, let me stand up here. Yeah, hi, Will Pine.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. On the way.
MDTA stations, not out of state. Okay. Yeah, because the out of state, I don't have any. From out of state, we were invoiced, but Maryland were not. Do you have it mounted?
Good job.
So it's totally wrong. Let me help you.